Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jaja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulonding. We are also producers of Jaja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gash, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gash Group also provides the best security company, Gash Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gash Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gash on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gash Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.gashglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash.
It's a warm welcome to our studio here in Serekunda. This is Star TV News with me, Jacqueline Coley. In the headlines tonight, President Barrow extends condolences to the Catholic community. 19 new cases recorded as 20 new cases registered. The Minister of Information and Communication announces ongoing activities of the government. PPP respects and is ready to protect constitutional rights of all its members, says party leader, as Tom Manjai announces intention for PPP's presidential candidature. Think Young Women organizes National Intergender Conveying for Adolescents on GBV and FGM. GHBU desists from Monday's planned sit-down strike. On the international scene, anger over killings by armed gangs. Trump backtracks on comments suggesting Americans vote twice. Russia PM visits Belarus as Lukashenko faces 4th week of protests. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. In a press release sent to media houses, President Adama Barrow joins the Catholic community in the Gambia and abroad to mourn the demise of Bishop Emeritus Michael Joseph Clary, commonly known in the Gambia as Bishop Clary, who passed away today, Thursday, the 3rd of September 2020 in Ireland at the age of 95. Bishop Clary spent most of his life in the Gambia as a teacher and a bishop. He first arrived in the Gambia in 1953 and served as a missionary in Fulabantang and Basseterre. He then taught at St. Augustine's High School for a quarter of a century and served there for 17 years as principal. In 1981, he was appointed the Bishop Emeritus. One of the historic events Bishop will also be remembered for is the hosting of His Holiness the late Pope John Paul II, now St. John Paul II, when he visited the Gambia in February 1992. The love Bishop Clary had for the Gambia was further manifested after his retirement. He stayed in the Gambia for 9 years before finally leaving for his country of origin, Ireland. May his soul rest in peace. 19 new cases registered, taking the total number of COVID-19 cases ever confirmed in the country to 3,120. This represents a 20% test positivity rate, 19 out of 95 total tests performed. The median age of the new cases is 38 years, ranging from 9 years to 77 years. 95 new laboratory test results received from MRCG and NPHL. Of these, 4 new tests returned indeterminate. Our Sane has the rest of the details.
20 new recoveries registered, bringing the cumulative number of recoveries to date to 1,295, 41.5% recovery rate, whereas 84 new people were taken into quarantine. No new discharges were made, while 66 of the newly quarantined are Gambian military personnel who returned from Sudan by an Ethiopian airline flight. 17 are civilians who came by SN Brussels. The country currently has 91 people in quarantine, 1,726 active cases, 311 probable cases, an accrued case fatality ratio of 3.2%. The bulk of the active cases are asymptomatic and is as such self-isolating at home, pending the manifestation of symptoms. The Ministry of Health has announced that new centers are now open within the Greater Banjul area and West Coast region for COVID-19 sample collections. Henceforth, anyone who wants to do a COVID-19 test could have their sample collected from the following sample collection points. Independent Stadium in Bakau, KMC sample collection started and ongoing. Buffer Zone in Latrikoda, KMC sample collection started and ongoing. Bruceby Main Roundabout, West Coast region adjacent to the Petroleum Building, sample collection started and ongoing. Brikama, West Coast region behind Ballet Johnson, sample collection will start on Monday, 7th of September 2020. Samples will be collected from these sites only on weekdays, Monday to Friday from 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. each day. The public is reminded that while at the sample collection sites, they should strictly adhere to COVID-19 prevention and control measures, including use of face masks, physical distancing, and hand washing or sanitizing. Meanwhile, the Risk Communication and Community Engagement Team, in close collaboration with youth groups and voluntary organizations in Greater Banjul area, have been working together in raising public awareness on COVID-19. During this period, they have been informing the public through radio and television programs on COVID-19 as well as the designated COVID-19 sample collection sites. The teams have been using vehicles with PA system to sensitize the public, said the Ministry of Health. For Star TV News, I am Awasane.
The government of the Gambia has officially launched a $31 million project set up to help vulnerable rural households. 83,000 rural households will receive direct cash transfers under this scheme. The initiative, which is in phases, will support households in Central River Region, Upper River Region, Lower River Region, Fonyi in West Coast Region, and Sabah Senjal in the North Bank Region. Households in Fonyi have already received the first part of their cash transfer support. This initiative, which is supported by the World Bank, is being implemented by the government agencies under the direct coordination of the Office of the Vice President. Dado Cham reports.
The cash support initiative intends to contribute to the mitigation of the socio-economic impact of the COVID-19 on vulnerable households in the Gambia by increasing short-term consumption of essential goods and services of the target families and enabling longer-term investment in human and productive capital. This initiative is Gambia government's direct response towards the goal of increasing social assistance coverage of the extreme poor in the country. In order development, the minister said that the European Union and the International Trade Center through Youth Empowerment Project under the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment recently handed over tricycles, e-bikes and bicycles of young Gambian entrepreneurs. The aim of the project is to create employment opportunities for youths and women and most importantly, facilitate the transportation of goods in the economy during and after the COVID-19. The support is in line with the policy of the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment to promote trade and industrial development in key sectors of the economy, to support the needed growth sufficient to impact on unemployment and poverty in the short and medium term. The minister also stated that the National Road Authority has embarked on a series of major road maintenances in the Greater Banjul area as part of efforts to ensure road safety. The maintenance works are currently ongoing on the following roads: Kololi, Gamtel Road, Dankong Street, Bakau, Julbro Road in Kanifing, Brusubi Phase 2 Road, Kanifing Estate Access Road. Works are ongoing on all the roads except Bakau and Julbro, which will commence immediately when the rains subside. The aim of these works is to improve the urban circulation, to provide alternative routes for road users, and to minimize the congestion of the highway. The initiative also attempts to support the proposed OIC. The initiative also attempts to support the proposed OIC road projects, he said. The activities include emergency works to repair flood damages on washouts that result in the road being cut or made impassable. Such emergency maintenance works mostly occur in the North Bank region Central River Region and Upper River Region, where most of the run-off water comes from Senegal. Currently, the National Road Authority is repairing the eroded roadside slope in Kumbija. In the URR, repair works are also progressing smoothly on the recently cut section on the Esau Kerawan Highway at Daro, Fode, Bab Village. Other emergency works are also currently ongoing in Kumbija Village, URR, to repair the approaches to a recently constructed culvert that were severely damaged as a result of the heavy rains. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Dado Chan.
The party leader of the People's Progressive Party, Papa Njai, said that his party is strict in democratic principle. For every member of the party has equal opportunities and rights to contest for any position, as the same applies to Tumanjai. Dado Chan tells us more.
Tumanjai, the National Assembly member for Banjul South, has announced her intention to contest for PPP's presidential candidature at the party's next Congress. She stated on her official Facebook page that she has made a decision that serving her people is a conviction. Therefore, she has taken the decision that women need to take that bold step. She added that she has thus decided after discussion with family members and friends that she will go for the leadership of her party, the PPP. Tumanjai currently holds one of the only 2 seats that PPP managed to win in the last National Assembly elections. Papa Njai, in his reaction, said that PPP caters for both individuals and public consensus and opinions. So if Tuma or anyone wants to contest against him or any party member in any position, it is the individual's constitutional rights to do so. Democracy must be protected at all costs in the journey towards building the Gambia we want. And that is what PPP stands for, he said. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Dado Chan.
Think Young Women, in collaboration with United National Population Fund, Assistances in the Gambia on Friday, organized a national intergender conveying for adolescents on gender-based violence, FGM and other harmful traditional practices. Our reporter Mariam Madem tells us more.
Violence against women and girls takes different patterns such as domestic violence, sexual assault, harassment, genital mutilation and more. However, Think Young Women is an inclusive young women-led non-profit organization that captures the needs of girls and young women, premised on the belief that young women and girls are active members of the wider community and play a vital role in it. The organization is aimed to address issues affecting young women by building their skills, strengthening their voices to create more impact and support to achieve women's rights. This engagement program is funded by the United Nations Population Fund Assistance in the Gambia, under the Think Young Women's 2020 annual work plan to implement a platform where 60 adolescents from the age of 12 to 17 to have the opportunity to engage in conversations on gender-based violence with specific focus on FGM and other harmful traditional practices. Mariette Newlands, program manager of Think Young Women during the engagement program, explained the aims and expectations of the convening program.
Instead, we decided to convene 10 participants in each region instead of convening all 60 from the 6 different regions. We have successfully convened participants in URR and CRR. And we had ensured in all this implementation, we had taken note and respect the WHO guidelines in promoting social distancing to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. The platform aims to break the current culture, which prevents engagement between the 2 different genders. It further aims to provide a clear picture on how each group perceives gender-based violence and harmful traditional practices. This platform tries to engage adolescents on what can be done to help end the harmful traditional practices within our communities. We understand that such platforms are not commonplace in Gambia due to various reasons linked to cultural norms and values, which consider FGM and other issues of harmful traditional practices and reproductive health rights as a taboo to be discussed among adolescents. We hope that during the engagement, we will be able to ensure that this convening and the aim of this convening is fully realized by ensuring that you participate fully to enable us realize the expected objective of this convening.
Kunul Adineye, country representative of United Nations Fund Population Assistant, had this to say as he described gender-based violence as its own pandemic and encouraged people to break the culture of silence.
Oftentimes also it brings a culture of shame. Families don't want to speak about it. But the girl child who has gone through that kind of harassment is traumatized. Oftentimes for the rest of her life, she doesn't have anyone to talk to. She doesn't have anyone to speak to. She feels alone. No one can understand how she feels. But these are things that are, again, not only a violation of the bodily integrity and rights of the girl, but it's also an impediment to national growth, to our socialization. And if we're not careful, can affect our peace and social cohesion. Gambia is known to be a land of peace, tranquility, unity. These are things that we need to speak to our fathers, speak to our mothers, learn more about it, and to find our own way of engaging to end this issue. It is my hope and belief that the culture of sexual harassment will end.
Honorable Ibrahim Akoli, Deputy Speaker of the Children's National Assembly, described the convening program as timely and said that violence against men also does exist, but people tend to neglect it compared to women. Honorable Colley, however, calls on the government to enforce strict laws in condemning such inhuman acts as rape cases continue to rise in the country.
The legal frameworks governing gender-based violence in the Gambia and around the world, but in the Gambia, the laws and policies guiding the girl child, children, women, and gender-based violence in particular is very difficult to be enforced. We have seen recently that the rape cases are getting on high rate. Our parents and guardians are still observing the culture of silence. I hereby appeal to the government to fully enforce the laws and hold all perpetrators into account and make them face justice. To our parents, listen to us, know our concerns, ask for our consent, and let's break the culture of silence.
It was planned to convene all 60 adolescents. However, due to the COVID-19 restrictions, the organization decided to convene 10 participants in each region instead of the 60. Gender-based violence is one of the most prevalent human rights violations in the world, with at least 1 in every 3 women alive today having experienced some form of physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. With the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic, studies predict that there is a high likelihood of increased incidences of gender-based violence everywhere. This is because pandemics such as COVID-19 result in restrictions on movement, thus forcing some women and girls to stay at home with their abusers, among other factors. Maria Madem, reporting for Star TV News.
The Joint Hand Business Union made clarifications on Friday about the plan to stage a sit-down strike on next week Monday by the Sarakunda Market Committee. Modi El Baji has more.
The COVID-19 regulation seemed to be very bitter to the business entities, prompting the call for a sit-down strike by a section of the Sarakunda market. However, another registered business union called the Joint Hands Business Union rejected claim that they are under one umbrella with those calling for the sit-down strike. The public relations officer of the Joint Hands Business Union, Brahma Ture, indicates that the reason why their union is not part of the said sit-down strike, noting that when the market union discussed their strike issue, they were not informed about it, and they cannot involve their union on anything that they did not know how it started. They even promised to talk to us about their plans, but we did not see them for nearly 3 good days. That was why we took it to the media to set light on our position regarding the issue. The Sarakunda Market Committee did not inform us about their intentions. That's why we cannot join them in their endeavors, Ture claimed. The union's treasurer, Alajimbai, stressed that they were not informed. That is why they cannot partake in such an activity. They also indicated how they got the information about the markets committee's plan to strike, but the information was very prompt to them, which led to their late reaction.
Exactly how they work it and how their plan is. Though we just received an audio, a WhatsApp audio from them, and then it was fall into the groups. Then we all heard of the same thing, that they actually scheduled their sit-down strike on the 7th September on Monday. So things were so prompt to us for us to just negotiate with them, and then we haven't seen them, we haven't negotiated them, we haven't do any contact with them. So we were unable to communicate with them and then get to a point with them, because we have not yet communicated with them. And we were also working on another method rather than sitting down a strike.
The Joint Hands Business Union urged their members to desist from the sit-down strike and also call on the government to intervene in correcting this problem in ensuring that all businesses open at the same time. For Star TV, I am Modu Elbaji.
Those were the local stories. We will be right back with international news after the short break.
Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jaja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulanding. We are also producers of Jaja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gash, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gash Group also provides the best security company, Gash Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gash Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gash on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gash Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.gashglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash.
And now beyond our borders, Haiti protests anger over killings by armed gangs. Police in Haiti have placed the nation on alert after a series of gang killings. Gangs are allegedly targeting anyone that criticizes the government. Protesters have accused the president of being complicit in the murders, an accusation he denies. Al Jazeera's Andy Galacha reports.
In Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, residents run for cover as homes burn and gunshots ring out. Scenes like this are becoming increasingly common, with protesters claiming armed gangs are operating with impunity. Dozens of people have been killed or kidnapped, with warring gangs accused of targeting poor neighborhoods.
They came and shot many people, including children and the elderly. They want to install a gang inside a neighborhood. This is outrageous, and the insecurity is out of control in this country.
In a period of 48 hours recently, at least 4 prominent government critics were killed, including respected lawyer Montferrier Dorval. He was gunned down outside his home after calling for another kind of country in a radio interview hours earlier. Haitian police say his death has all the hallmarks of a gang assassination.
Everybody is unsecure in this country. We don't accept that. We demand justice. We demand justice for Montferrier Dorval. We demand justice for all the people in the country.
Many say this man, self-described revolutionary Jimmy Barbecue Cherissier, is behind the violence. But it's alleged the former police officer is orchestrating armed gangs, and UN calls to bring him to justice have so far failed. Haiti's President Jovenel Moïse has condemned the killings and promised investigations, but his administration is coming under increasing criticism. President Jovenel Moïse denies any ties to the gangs, but his critics say he's leaving them alone because they allegedly attack his opponents. As things stand, Moïse is ruling by decree after Haiti's elections were delayed. Those delays have led to constitutional and political havoc and a sharp rise in insecurity. Haiti is still dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Laura and the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, but protesters say the alleged ties between the government and gangs is a serious threat.
So I think the government had already sent a very clear message that us citizens demanding peace, demanding justice, demanding the end of insecurity, we are the enemy. And the gangs they don't have any worry when they are in the streets heavily armed, and they are the friends of the government.
Haiti has long been a fragile nation where most live on less than $2 a day. This latest escalation in violent killings has many worried that Haiti may once again be heading towards an unstable future. Andy Gallagher, Al Jazeera.
US President Donald Trump has backtracked on his suggestion that voters should try to cast their ballots twice in November's election, which is deemed illegal. In an abrupt U-turn, Trump took to Twitter to urge people to send ballots early by mail and then visit the polling station on election day to check if their postal vote was registered. The US president has been insisting without evidence that more postal voting will lead to widespread fraud. Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher reports.
After the president appeared to urge his supporters in North Carolina to break the law and vote twice, a defense from the podium of the White House briefing room.
The president does not condone unlawful voting. The president's been very clear about this. Once again, not surprised the media is taking the president out of context. This president's trying to enfranchise Americans, which is exactly what he's been saying. He wants every American to have a vote.
The president himself tried helping with the cleanup. He posted a series of tweets where he told voters to go to their polling places after sending in their mail-in ballots to make sure their vote had been counted. The controversy erupted during a presidential campaign visit to North Carolina. He said people worried about election fraud should vote twice.
Let them send it in and let them go vote. And if their system's as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote. If it isn't tabulated, they'll be able to vote. So that's the way it is.
Intentionally voting twice is a crime, something officials in North Carolina pointed out in a statement. They said attempting to vote twice in an election or soliciting someone to do so also is a violation of North Carolina law. There are numerous checks in place in North Carolina that prevent people from double voting. Attorney General William Barr was asked during an interview on American TV to respond to Trump's comments. The government's top lawyer said he didn't know the election laws in every state, but added without evidence that widespread vote by mail is very open to fraud and coercion, is reckless and dangerous, and people are playing with fire. President Trump has often claimed that mail-in voting will be used to rob him of the election. One expert who's looked into mail-in voting says there's no evidence to support the president's allegations.
In the past, when politicians have debated election laws, it's been intense, but it's not been to the level of vitriol and certainty behind the statements that we see the president and his allies making about vote by mail. It's a real stark divide between the evidence and the rhetoric on this issue. There's just such a wide gulf between the two.
The Federal Election Commission says the idea of mail-in fraud is a conspiracy theory. That's backed up by a 2017 study which found the overall rate of voting fraud in the US is at the most 0.0009%. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has reshuffled his top security post in what is widely being seen as a move to consolidate power. It coincides with a visit from Russia's Prime Minister. Moscow says it is ready to send police to Belarus to help deal with the continuing protests. Al Jazeera's Priyanka Gupta reports.
It's the most sustained challenge yet to the man known as Europe's last dictator, Belarus's President Alexander Lukashenko. For 4 weeks, these mainly peaceful demonstrators have been rallying day and night, demanding an end to his 26-year rule. But in the face of growing street protests and isolation from Europe, Lukashenko has found an ally in Russia. Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin visited Minsk in an apparent show of support.
Russia completely supports the sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of Belarus. Belarus is dear to us, not only thanks to historical, linguistic and religious connections, but also our hundreds of thousands or millions of citizens who are practically one people.
The Belarusian Opposition Council says it's determined to hold new elections, despite recent rare public rift between main challenger of last month's disputed elections, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, and some of its members who are ways to unseat the president.
As things stand today, the social movement, the social platform that was created in Belarus, has two main goals. The first, to end human rights abuses and to free all those who are detained for political reasons. And secondly, to accept that the election results were falsified and that new presidential elections should be held in Belarus. Here we have absolute agreement.
On Friday, Chikanoskaya will address an informal meeting of the UN Security Council on alleged human rights violations and crackdown on journalists. There, in spite of Russia and China, she may find support for the new but steady wave of protests among European member states and the US, who have called last month's presidential election neither free nor fair. Priyanka Gupta, Al Jazeera.
And before we end the news, a quick recap of our main headlines. President Barrow extends condolences to the Catholic community. 19 new cases recorded as 20 new cases registered. The Minister of Information and Communication announces ongoing activities of the government. PPP respects and is ready to protect constitutional rights of all its members, says party leader, as Tom Manjai announces intention for PPP's presidential candidature. Think Young Women organizes National Intergender Conveying for Adolescents on GBV and FGM. GHBU desists from Monday's planned sit-down strike. On the international scene, anger over killings by armed gangs. Trump backtracks on comments suggesting Americans vote twice. Russia PM visits Belarus as Lukashenko faces fourth week of protests. That's all for this edition of the news. Do join us tomorrow for more news. Please stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs. Thanks for watching.